It's been an odd few years for stealth fans. Where once the genre was a mainstream contender, it's mostly, save for Hitman, fallen to smaller budget affairs like Styx Master of Shadows, Origami, and Shadwind carry the torch. Many of these heir apparents have stumbled as much as they've succeeded, but that's what keeps me coming back, no matter how niche the genre is. Cause you see, I want to be there for when the next truly great stealth innovator rises. And that begs the question, does Ereban Shadow Legacy, a game where you can merge into the shadows to traverse in all sorts of wild ways, finally reach that lofty height? As a stealth game, yeah. As an overall package, well, that's when things get more complicated. I want to make it clear, I really enjoyed my overall time with Ereban, but so much of that joy is in spite of it making countless amateurish decisions that really should have been avoided. It simultaneously has the boundless creativity of a true indie and all the cliches of an Xbox Live Arcade game. A hand-holding tutorial? You betcha. A nigh pointless morality system that barely matters? Overly complicated lore? Definitely, especially for a game this short. A contrived upgrade system? Amazing. Correct again. So if Ereban is this derivative, then it must have a really, really good central mechanic, right? Yes it does. I'm pleased to say that merging into the shadows is incredible. Just look at it in action. It's a single pull of the trigger, you seamlessly pull it off in motion, and it is constantly gratifying as you just worm your way across all the environment like you're a Venom symbiote. I have lost count of the ways I managed to sneak around unnoticed, achieving a ghost badge on every level in my first playthrough. Thanks to generous checkpoint placement, intuitive controls, and typically open-ended level design, navigating Ereban is an absolute joy. Whether it's carefully threading the needle between moving shadows of machinery or slipping beneath the feet of a meddlesome guard, it's a delight. Obviously, given the emphasis on shadows, the lighting is incredibly deliberate and beautifully rendered. This is some gorgeous low-poly environmental design. Anyone with nostalgia for the PS2 days will feel like they've been transported back, just with all the modern sensibilities too. I just kept stopping to drink it all in, especially the ancient ruins. Like, there's no question, the environmental artists and level designers here truly outdid themselves on the presentation. This is a team that could make a Tomb Raider clone and I would be right there for it. While the runtime is only about 5 to 7 hours, they make the most of it. There's even a brief mini sandbox level styled after Breath of the Wild with side quests and secrets to find. That said, as the plot ratchets up in tension, the linearity does as well, but rarely to the game's detriment. The worst of it is a contrived puzzle dungeon that really does try to follow in Zelda's footsteps, but it's really uneven and uneventful. I understand that they were trying to show off the full potential of the shadow capabilities, but this ain't it. However, despite these issues, it's not just the central mechanic that works. For one, the plot is refreshingly decent. Our heroine Ayana is an endearing loner, and her supporting cast all do solid work. I'm not sure who plays her ally Set, but he sounds dead on like Canderous from Knights of the Republic, and I loved hearing it.
Please, without trust, we are defeated. I will talk to Mira about this.
All right. I'll send you updates via the codec.
Granted, the story does get a bit up its own ass by the conclusion, but I respect what they were going for. So many first-time indie games struggle with cohesive narrative design, but Ereban tries its damnedest to stay out of its own way while letting you immerse yourself. While the cast has to deliver a ton of in-universe terminology at you, I was relieved to see plenty of genuine character work as well. Even if it's hard to really feel the extent of consequence to Ayana's decisions in the greater setting, I cared about her finding out about what happened to her long-lost race, the titular Erebans. Her search for identity and meaning as the last of her kind is effective emotional writing that's equally well acted. What I really couldn't give a flying ninja star about, though, was Baby Robot Games' attempt at making me reflect on the morality of my actions within the story. You see, Ayana has a hidden blade, but she's no use in a straight-up fight. Several of her unlockable gadgets and shadow abilities are all non-lethal evasion tactics. While ghosting through levels is a ton of fun, you can still manage to get the Ruthless badge and be classified as non-lethal. The trick to that, robot deaths don't actually count as deaths to the morality meter, even though they do give an odd lip service to them being semi-sentient, which I thought was going to make me be punished for killing robots, but the scorekeeping system doesn't really care. It only adds lethal points towards a player's moral consequence meter if they go out of their way to kill humans working for the evil corporation. Humans that typically are the easiest to avoid. So surely these humans must do something to incur Ayana's wrath, right? Or there's something else about them that feeds into this morally gray angle that they emphasize to the point that it's even jammed in the first blurb on the game's store page, right? Within minutes of being let free, Ayana's allies plead to her not to kill human enemies. By the time I hit credits, it dawned upon me that most levels have at max 5 to 9 human enemies wandering around as opposed to the over a dozen robots. Seriously, as utterly delightful as Ereban may be to play, its constant attempts to remind me about the consequences ran completely in the opposite direction of my blissfully racing through the levels to explore and slip past my opponents. It gives off this impression that the developers expected me to make the most callous decisions while simultaneously giving no real incentive to do so. I wouldn't even think that hard about it, but they really kept trying to remind me that this is a thing. The darkest ending can still be achieved after playing Ayana as practically a space wizard ninja saint. Like a confused carpenter being offered flat drill bits, I have to ask, what's the point? There's these weird things that I couldn't help but raise my eyebrow at. Like, most of the abilities are fun to use, but then there's the binocular ability. If invested with a boatload of hard-to-find resources, they can mark enemies. Yet this functionality is made completely redundant by the base level radar ability you can acquire before finishing the first tutorial level. Why is this other system even here then? Why does it need 3 upgrades worth of hard-won resources that could take hours to unlock? There's not even that many levels with the distance to warrant it, and it's not Metal Gear Solid 1 where you're trying to make sense of everything due to a fixed camera angle. Or how about multiple skill tree upgrades that are just different flavors of got detected, get out of jail free card that seem designed for a version of the game with far less generous checkpoints. Weirder still, there are non-lethal playstyle upgrades on the lethal side of the upgrade tree. It's just peculiar, like hearing an otherwise beautiful song suddenly throwing in an extra instrument for one verse that totally doesn't fit. None of these are deal breakers, but they kept pulling me out of things just enough to hold Ereban back from being its best self. Baby Robot games try to achieve so much when just delivering a solid 5 to 7 hour stealth game would have been enough, especially given its super cool central mechanic. Thankfully, the end product is still worth playing. I'm tempted to try and get a few more achievements given how replayable most levels are. There's also New Game Plus, though they don't call it that for some reason, letting you revisit chapters with all your abilities unlocked to try new strategies and find collectibles that were missed. I just wish they'd focused more on that tight core because it feels like we've only scratched the surface of its potential. If Ereban somehow gets a sequel, and I really hope it does, then I also hope it zeroes in on what sets it apart rather than grafting on decades-old fads. There's some really great potential here.